Grip strength. The last time you carried all the groceries from the car in one trip, fingers white, bags cutting into your forearms, half the circulation gone from your hands by the time you reached the counter. Your body was passing a health test you never even thought about. Grip strength is one of the strongest predictors of how long a person will live. A Lancet study tracked 142,000 people across 17 countries and found that stronger grip correlated with lower risk of death from heart disease, stroke, cancer, and nearly everything else they measured. Healthy grip averages around 47 to 50 kilograms for men in their 20s and 30s, and 30 to 35 for women, with both declining a few percent per decade after 30. For every 5 kilograms below that benchmark, the risk of dying earlier went up, even after adjusting for age, weight, and lifestyle. Doctors now consider it a vital sign. Nobody checks it at your annual physical, but the data says they should. The farmer's carry extends that to your whole body. Picking up 75% of your total body weight, split between both hands, and walking with it for 60 seconds means you're in better shape than you probably give yourself credit for. Every trip hauling luggage, carrying a kid on your hip, or dragging furniture across the room is just a health screening you don't know you're acing. Working memory. Before area codes, phone numbers were 7 digits long because 7 is the limit of what a healthy human brain can hold at one time. That finding comes from one of the most repeated studies in neuropsychology, first published in 1956 and confirmed dozens of times since. Doctors still use a version of it called the digit span test to screen working memory. Someone reads you a string of numbers, you wait a few seconds, then repeat them back. 7, give or take 2, is the healthy range. Below 5 is where doctors start looking deeper. If you can remember a 10-digit phone number long enough to type it into your contacts, your working memory is doing exactly what this test measures, and passing with flying colors. Reaction time, or the ability to respond quickly, is another check. On a simple visual test, healthy adults usually land between 200 and 250 milliseconds. Free online tests let you measure yours in under a minute. You'll probably spend the next half hour trying to beat your own score instead of doing whatever you opened your laptop for. Balance. Putting on a sock while standing up doesn't feel like something a medical journal would care about. A 2022 study in the British Journal of Sports Medicine says otherwise. Researchers followed over 1,700 adults between the ages of 51 and 75 for 7 years, and found that those who couldn't hold a single-leg stance for 10 seconds had an 84% higher risk of dying during the follow-up window, after adjusting for age, body weight, and pre-existing conditions. If you stood on one leg getting dressed this morning and didn't grab the wall, your muscular, skeletal, and neurological systems are coordinating well enough to keep you upright without conscious effort. You probably didn't give it a second thought. The sit-rise test measures something different, whether your strength, flexibility, and balance can work together in one motion. To take it, you sit down cross-legged on the floor and stand back up without using your hands or knees for support. Each time you use a hand, a knee, or the side of your leg to help, a point comes off. A study of over 4,000 people followed for 12 years found that the less help people needed getting up, the longer their lifespan. Very few adults can do it without any help at all, so if you can drop to the floor and pop back up, consider yourself rare. One word of precaution here, don't attempt this at home alone. Get a spotter first so you don't topple backward and crack your head open. Sleep. People love bragging about falling asleep the second their head touches the pillow. What they're actually describing is a body running on a sleep debt high enough that the brain can't stay conscious through its normal wind down. Under 5 minutes to fall asleep is a symptom of sleep deprivation, not efficiency. Consistently needing more than 30 minutes indicates your nervous system is struggling to calm down, a pattern tied to elevated cortisol and higher cardiovascular risk. The healthy range is 10 to 20 minutes. If that's where you land, your melatonin timing, stress hormones, and circadian rhythm are all calibrated to each other. That kind of coordination means your sleep health is in pretty good shape. Waking up a minute or two before the alarm, without planning to, adds to the picture. That's the body's cortisol rhythm timed well enough to release a pre-dawn spike right on schedule, bringing you to the surface before your alarm gets the chance. Remembering pieces of dreams when you first wake up, even just a couple of images, means you're completing your later REM cycles. REM is the phase where your brain processes emotions and consolidates memory, and the longest cycles come toward morning. If you remember any part of a dream, that's one more sign your sleep is doing what healthy sleep does. Healing. A scratch that closes up in a few days just confirmed that your immune system, your circulation, your clotting ability, and your nutrient reserves are all in better shape than you'd know without a blood panel. Minor cuts close within 3 to 7 days when everything is functioning well. That timeline requires blood to clot properly, immune cells to clear bacteria, tissues to produce new skin, and vitamin C, zinc, and protein levels to be high enough to fuel the repair. When any piece of that chain is compromised, poor circulation, low nutrient levels, uncontrolled blood sugar, healing noticeably slows. A cut that shows no improvement after 10 days is a clinical concern. One that fades in less than a week means you're quite healthy. Bruising tells a similar story. Whacking your shin on a coffee table and waking up the next day with nothing to show for it means platelets responded on time, clotting factors activated, vessel walls held, and your liver, which produces those clotting factors, kept up its end. Easy bruising from minor contact can point to platelet issues, liver problems, or vitamin C and K deficiencies. The annoying part of not bruising is there's no evidence that you got hurt and no sympathy either, but that's part of what being healthy looks like. Heart rate. The timing between your heartbeats is never the same twice. The more inconsistent it is, the healthier you probably are. Heart rate variability, or HRV, measures the tiny gaps between consecutive beats in milliseconds. The variation between those beats reflects how well your autonomic nervous system can move between stress and a recovery response. A study of over 9,000 adults found that an HRV below 25 milliseconds puts you at higher risk for inflammation, blood sugar problems, high cholesterol, and high blood pressure. Anything above 50 if you're under 40, or above 30 if you're older, means your nervous system is adapting well. Your resting heart rate is also a good indicator. A study of 46,000 people found that those with a resting rate between 60 and 69 lived significantly longer than those between 80 and 90 beats per minute. If yours sits in the low 60s without you doing anything deliberate to get it there, your heart's running at the pace of the people who live longest. How fast your heart rate drops after a hard workout matters too. A difference of 30 or more beats within the first minute of stopping is a strong sign of cardiovascular fitness. A difference of fewer than 18 is where cardiologists start paying attention. Immunity. Everyone in your house caught that thing going around last month. You didn't. That wasn't luck. A healthy adult catches 2 to 3 colds per year. Fewer than that means your immune system is recognizing and clearing threats before they get a foothold. Catching significantly more, or dealing with infections that drag on for weeks, can indicate chronic stress, poor sleep, or nutritional deficiencies wearing your defenses down. Getting through the year with 1 cold or fewer puts your immune function well above the average, even if you've been crediting the hand sanitizer. The part many people don't connect to immunity is their gums. A 2018 meta-analysis found that periodontal disease, chronic gum infection, comes with a 15% higher risk of coronary heart disease. The bacteria behind inflamed gums enter the bloodstream and trigger low-grade inflammation that accelerates arterial damage over years. Pink gums that stay pink when a toothbrush touches them mean your oral bacteria are under control and your inflammatory baseline is low. If your gums haven't bled during brushing in as long as you can remember, your mouth has been doing a great job of protecting more than just your teeth. Skin and nails. There's a health check that takes 2 seconds and needs no tools at all, and it works on the back of your own hand. Pinch the skin there, pull it up, and let go. If it drops back flat right away, you're well hydrated and your collagen's still springy. If it sags back slowly, you're either low on water or losing a little elasticity. Skin holds its shape with water and collagen, the mesh of protein under the surface that keeps it firm. Have enough of each and it springs back the instant you let go. Low on either and it takes its time. Medics use that same pinch to catch dehydration in seconds. Fast and flat is what you want. Slow and doughy means go find a glass of water. Your fingernails give you another kind of free readout. The pale half-moons at the base, called lunulae, reflect iron, B12, thyroid, and protein levels. If they're visible on most of your fingers, those levels are where they need to be. Their disappearance across all 10 nails has been linked to anemia, malnutrition, thyroid dysfunction, and kidney problems. Genetics and skin thickness affect how visible yours are, so they look different on everyone. But if yours are there, they're confirming something you'd normally need a lab test to find out. Nails that don't crack, peel, or ridge are another good sign. Spoon-shaped nails can indicate iron deficiency. Persistent ridging can signal thyroid or nutritional gaps. Nails you've never had a reason to complain about are one of the simplest signs of good health there is. Endurance. You probably walked up a few flights of stairs this week without stopping to catch your breath at the top. That's the equivalent of a clinical heart and lung function test, one that would have cost you several $100s on a treadmill. The European Society of Cardiology's benchmark is 4 flights, about 60 steps, in under 60 seconds with no stopping. A 2020 study found that patients who couldn't manage it in under 90 seconds had significantly worse outcomes during follow-up. If you take stairs without pausing at a landing, your heart and lungs are handling demand well. Walking speed points in the same direction. A pooled analysis of over 34,000 adults found that every small increase in natural walking pace correlated with a 12% drop in mortality risk. The threshold for above-average life expectancy works out to about a quarter mile in 7 minutes at a normal, unhurried pace. If that sounds slow to you, good. That means you're above it. If you can talk comfortably during that walk, full sentences, no gasping, your cardiovascular system can deliver enough oxygen for movement and speech at the same time. Doctors call it the talk test and use it as a validated measure of aerobic fitness. Every walk and talk you've had with a friend was a passing grade you didn't know you were earning. Energy. That afternoon crash that has everyone reaching for sugar or coffee isn't something you deal with. And that's not a small thing. The 2 to 3 p.m. slump happens when blood sugar spikes after a meal and then drops below a comfortable level, leaving cells short on fuel, right when cortisol is supposed to be tapering for the day. When insulin sensitivity is healthy, blood sugar rises and falls in smooth, shallow waves. When it's off, from poor sleep, chronic stress, processed food, or early insulin resistance, the waves become spikes and crashes, and the crash usually shows up a couple hours after lunch. Not getting one means your insulin is doing its job. Stable energy also comes down to cortisol following the right curve, peaking in the morning and declining steadily through the day. When chronic stress keeps cortisol elevated or spikes it erratically, the result is that drained but wired sensation where the body is exhausted and the brain won't slow down. Making it from morning to evening without a crash or a nap means both systems are working well, which might explain why you're in a better mood than everyone else in the afternoon meeting. Weight. A bathroom scale that lands on roughly the same number month after month, without a diet, an app, or a single calorie counted, means your body is doing something a lot of people spend a fortune trying to achieve. Weight that holds steady on its own means leptin and ghrelin, the hormones that communicate hunger and fullness to your brain, are calibrated correctly. Your thyroid is producing enough hormone to keep metabolic rate at baseline. Insulin is processing meals efficiently without storing excess. Cortisol isn't chronically elevated, which would promote fat gain around the midsection even without a change in diet. When any of those break, weight moves one way or the other without explanation. Losing more than 5% of body weight without trying is one of the first things oncologists ask about. Gaining without eating differently can signal thyroid dysfunction, heart failure, kidney problems, or cortisol overload. The number itself doesn't say much. The fact that it stays put month after month without you managing it tells you your metabolism, your hormones, and your appetite are all in agreement. Breath. Take a deep breath right now. Hold it. If you can get past 45 seconds, your lungs, your cardiovascular system, and your body composition just passed a test the Royal Air Force used to screen pilots for decades. Research on adults aged 20 to 40 found that people at a healthy weight averaged over 44 seconds, while those carrying significant extra weight averaged 32. The mechanism behind it is CO2 tolerance. How long your body can handle rising carbon dioxide before the breathing reflex forces an inhale. Your chemoreceptors, the sensors that monitor gas levels in your blood, decide when to override your decision to keep holding. The better tuned they are, the longer you last. CO2 tolerance is shaped by how much oxygen your blood can carry, how efficiently your lungs exchange gases, and how much your body trusts itself to wait before demanding the next breath. People with poor cardiovascular health, excess weight, or compromised lung function hit that panic point much sooner. Not because they're weak-willed, but because their body is telling them to breathe for a reason. If you're still holding, check the clock. Past 45 seconds, you just learned more from one breath than a lot of people know about their own health. Not bad for something that cost you nothing and took less time than checking your email. Your body only calls attention to itself when something's going wrong, so it's easy to forget how much of it is working just fine. You're probably healthier than you think, you just didn't know the signs to look for.